heavy with guilt.
You are dead.
Obinna followed the boy without thinking. He did not ask permission. He did not call for guards. He did not look back at the palace wall rising dark and imposing behind him. For once, the crowd did not weigh on his head because it was no longer there. He cannot walk with the certainty of a child who had never learned fear. He hummed softly as they passed through the narrow paths leading out of Omochi, his small feet splashing through puddles left by the rain. "Does your mama know you came here alone?" Obinna asked, his voice unsteady. "No, she does not know," the boy replied. "She thought I was going to play with our neighbor's children at the market square." "That means you lied to her," Prince Obinna said. "No, I did not lie to her. She assumed that was where I was going to. I just did not bother to tell her. I don't want her to worry about me," the boy said. "More like if you tell her, she wouldn't let you go," Prince Obinna said. "If that's how you say it, no problem, but definitely not how I say it. Don't worry, I'm not mad. Mama says everyone is entitled to their own opinions," the boy said, looking at the prince like he has forgiven him. They reached a modest compound just beyond the kingdom's edge, a place built of clay and patience. Smoke coiled from a small cooking fire. The scent of roasted yams lingered in the air. Obinna's heart pounded so violently he feared it would betray him before his eyes did. Ikenna ran into the house shouting for his mama. "Mama," he called brightly, "the man from your stories is here." The word narrowed. Adane stepped out. Time collapsed. She was thinner. Perhaps lines of endurance turned her face where laughter once lived. But her eyes, those eyes, held the same quiet fire, the same death that had undone him by the river. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Adane dropped the bowl in her hands. It shattered at her feet. Obinna's knees gave way. He sank into the mud like a man struck by lightning, his breath tearing painfully from his chest. "You..." His voice failed him. "They said you were dead." She covered her mouth, tears spilling freely now. "They said you believed them," she whispered. Ikenna stood between them, beaming. "Did I tell you Mama cries when she thinks I sleep?" he announced proudly. Obinna sobbed. Not quietly, not with dignity. He sobbed like a man mourning 6 stolen years, like a prince stripped of certainty, like a lover returned from the grave of lies. "I went to your grave every night," he said. "I begged the earth to forgive me." Adane crossed the distance between them and knelt, her hands trembling as she touched his face, solid, warm, real. "I never died," she said softly. "They only buried my name." Silence wrapped around them, sacred and fragile. When they finally stood, Obinna looked at Ikenna again, with terror, with awe, with recognition that cut deeper than any blade. "He is mine," Obinna whispered. Adane nodded. "I did not know when I left," she said. "I would have found you. I swear it. I would have sought for you." Obinna closed his eyes, pressing his forehead to hers. "They took everything from me," he said, "but failed at the most important thing." That night, Obinna did not return to the palace. Adane told him how the priestess of the land that welcomed her for these past 6 years visited her one day and told her she must return, that the time had come for her destiny to be fulfilled, for what is hidden to be revealed. She came back a few nights ago, but refused to leave her parents' home during the day. The next morning, Omochi awoke to a truth it had tried to bury. And far above the kingdom, the ancestors stared, because love, long denied, had begun its walk back home. The palace did not sleep the night Prince Obinna failed to return. By dawn, fear had begun to speak aloud. Guards searched the forest. Messengers rode hard through border villages. Elders gathered with voices sharpened by panic, because a kingdom could forgive rebellion, but not disappearance. Queen Nkiru knew. She felt it in the way the air pressed heavy against her chest, in the way memory rose like a ghost she has never managed to kill. Some lies were patient, some waited for the exact moment to bloom. He has found her, she said quietly. The king stared at her. That is impossible, he said. She is dead. The queen did not answer. She hid her wicked plots against the innocent girl from him, and now she dreaded him finding out. By midday, Obinna returned, but not alone. He walked through the palace gates confident and fearless, his shoulders squared, his steps unhurried. At his side walked Adane, her back straight, her expression calm but unyielding. Ikena held his hand, small fingers wrapped tightly around the future he did not yet understand. The courtyard fell silent. Servants froze mid-steps. Elders stopped breathing. The guards did not move, not because they had not been ordered to, but because something ancient in them recognized truth when it walked past. Queen Nkiru stepped forward, her face drained of color. Adane bowed deeply, respectfully, but she did not kneel. "You," the queen said, her voice barely steady. You are supposed to be dead." Adane lifted her gaze. "No," she replied. "I was sent away, not dead." The king staggered back as though struck. "This child," Obinna said, his voice clear, carrying across the courtyard, "is
Father,
my
this
son."
child is my son.
The word son cracked the kingdom open. Chaos erupted, voices rising, questions spilling over one another, outrage clashing with awe, but Obinna raised his hand and the noise faltered. Obinna stepped forward with Adane and the child beside him. His voice did not shout, but it carried heavy with years of grief. "For 6 years," he said slowly, "I have worn mourning like a second skin. You buried the woman I loved before I could even see a corpse. I cried over a grave that held only dust and lies. You watched me break and you called it peace." He turned his gaze to the elders, then to his parents. "Do you know what it means to mourn the living? To weep for a woman who was still breathing? To curse the gods for a death they never caused?" He placed his hand gently on Ikena's shoulder. "This child grew without a father because you were afraid of a poor girl's shadow touching the throne. This woman walked away with my seed in her womb because you chose pride over truth." His voice trembled, but he did not stop. "I loved her when she had nothing but her name. I loved her when I thought she was only bones in the grave. I loved her when I took a priest to wed her spirit and I 6 months after she was buried. I love her now when she carries my pain and my son. If this is shame, then I will wear it before the world. If this is a crime, then let the ancestors judge me and not your fear." He faced the king and queen fully. "You taught me that a crown is heavy, but you did not teach me that it must be heartless. I will not rule with a lie on my tongue and a dead woman's story in my hands." He drew Adane closer. "This is my wife. This is my son. I did not return to beg. I returned to claim my truth." His eyes hardened with quiet fire. "Accept her or watch me live with her. I will walk away from the golds. I will walk away from titles. I will walk away from this palace, from this den of lies, deception and wickedness, if I must. But I will not walk away from the woman you tried to erase." The courtyard was silent. The earth itself seemed to pause. King Ezudo closed his eyes. He had ruled with strength, he had ruled with fear, but never had he faced something stronger than power, love sharpened by loss.
Guards, go at once and fetch
get
the
for me
native
the
doctor.
chief priest.
This is a matter of utmost
I have no
importance.
problem with you getting married to the young woman that has given you an heir, my son. I only have problem with the woman who plotted all this evil under my roof," the king said finally. Queen Nkiru knelt before her husband and sobbed in remorse.
My king, I beg
and
your
the king
forgiveness.
ignored her.
Please forgive
The
me.
chief priest soon arrived. The rites were held at dawn. The river was called. The elders chanted. The soil was touched. Adane stood barefoot upon the earth of Umuchi, her child at her side, her heart pounding but unbroken. When no curse fell, when no storm rose, when the land remained silent and still, the truth settled. Love had not angered the ancestors. Lies had, for as soon as the chief priest's staff came down on the ground, he said to the queen, "When the tortoise plans evil in secret, the sky still hears his footstep. From the mouth of the gods to your ears, Queen of Umuchi, your deeds have been weighed, and your hands are found heavy with guilt. You drove away an innocent girl and the child she carried, the seed of this kingdom. You planted sorrow where there should have been shelter, and you called cruelty wisdom. Because your hands did not spill the blood, the gods will not spill yours. But because your heart wished them erased, your eyes shall be denied the light. From this day, blindness shall walk beside you. You who refuse to see a poor girl become family shall no longer see your son's joy. You who rejected her womb shall never witness the children she bears. You will hear their laughter, but never behold their faces. You will feel small feet run past you, but never see where they go. Thus you will live longing for sight, as you once made another live longing for mercy. You shall sit as queen in darkness, and when your days end, your story shall be told as warning and wisdom. For the one who closes her eyes to justice, the gods will close her eyes to the world. The gods have spoken." A cry tore from the queen's chest. She fell from her throne and crawled forward, her coral beads scattering across the palace floor like broken prayers. "No, no, no, please," she sobbed. "Great ones of the sky and the earth, hear me." She lifted her trembling hands. "I did it for the crown. I did it for my son. I feared shame. I feared poverty. I feared the tongues of the people." Her voice cracked. "I did not kill her. I did not kill the child. I only sent her away. Spare me this darkness. Let me see my grandchildren. Let me see the face of the woman I wronged." She turned blindly towards Adane. "Forgive me," she cried. "I thought I was saving my house, but I was burning it with my own hands." She pressed her forehead to the ground. "Do not make me queen of night while I still live. Do not let me die without seeing the joy I denied." The chief priest looked down at her, unmoved, and then said, When the rain beats the leopard's skin, it is not to wash it, but to show its spot. Mercy is for the innocent, punishment is for the wise who chose evil." The wind rose, the lamps flickered, and the queen's eyes clouded, not with tears, but with the shadows of the gods. She screamed once more, then silence took her sight. The crowd stood shocked and trembling, afraid the anger of the gods shall meet them next. When the king recovered from the revelation and shock, he commanded that the queen be taken to her room and that everyone should go back to their homes. The wedding was quiet, no lavish feast, no boastful drums, only truth. When Obinna placed the crown upon Adane's head, his hands trembled, not from doubt, but from reverence. "You were never beneath me," he whispered. "It was I who knelt to fear." Years later, children would ask why their king listened so closely to the poor, why their queen walked among widows, why their prince played barefoot with village boys, and elders would say, because once the earth swallowed a name and it learned the cost of silence, because love, even when buried, remembers how to rise. Long after the drums of that quiet wedding faded, Umuchi began to change, not suddenly, not loudly, but in the slow, stubborn way rivers reshape stone. People noticed it first in small things. The king walked more often among farmers. The queen spoke less and listened more. Petitions from the poor were no longer treated as interruptions, but as warnings the land itself had sent. And at the center of it all stood Queen Adane. She did not rule with spectacle, she ruled with memory. First, she forgave her mother-in-law before her wedding, hoping she would regain her sight and witness her only child's wedding. When years came and go, yet there was no sign the queen mother would be regaining her sight soon, Queen Adane moved on to her next project while putting her mother-in-law in prayers. She remembered what it meant to be unseen. She remembered how power could lie and call it order. She remembered walking away from home with bleeding feet and no certainty except the will to survive. So when widows came to the palace gates, they were welcomed. When orphan children wandered into courtyards, they were fed. When young girls were accused simply for being noticed, the queen's voice rose, calm, firm, unignorable. Love is not a crime, she would say, and poverty is not a sin. Prince Ikenna grew under the weight of many stories. Some called him the child of scandal, others whispered that he was born of prophecy. But he knew only this, that his mother's strength was his inheritance and his father's remorse was his lesson. Sometimes at dusk, Obinna and Adanne would walk together to the edge of the palace grounds, where the world softened into trees and open sky. They did not speak much then, they did not need to. They had already lived through the worlds. On one of such occasions, standing beneath an Iroko tree older than the kingdom itself, Obinna said quietly, "If I had not lost you, I would never have learned how to fight." Adanne smiled sadly. "If I had not lost you," she replied, "I would never have learned how to live." They stood there as the sun sank, two people reshaped by sorrow, stitched together by truth. And far away in the cemetery where a grave once listened, grass grew thick and green over an empty lie. No one visited it anymore. The earth has released the name it was never meant to keep. And so the story passed into memory, not as a tale of tragedy alone, but as a warning carried gently from mouth to mouth, from firelight to firelight, that love buried does not die, that lies rot eventually, that even kingdoms must answer when the earth remembers, and that sometimes the most powerful crown a woman can wear is the one she survives long enough to choose.
This is so peaceful.
It really is.